Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. It means everything to me. Before we get started, I just want to say to everybody that has been reaching out to me, showing me support, I appreciate you so much. When I tell you I appreciate you, I truly mean it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please leave me a comment. Please leave me a like. It would mean so much to me. You guys are just the best, and I thank you. Hi guys, so just a couple things. Subscriber Veronica Nonica for bringing this case to me. I truly appreciate you bringing it to my attention, as this baby's story needs to be told. Secondly, the victim in this story is just a little girl. She's only 10 years old. So please keep that in mind, and if you believe it'll be too much for you, please click off now and come back for another video. And with that, let's get started. Victoria Martens was born on August 23, 2006. Her classmates described her as sweet and thoughtful. Victoria lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico with her mom, Michelle Martens, and her little brother. Michelle Martens was born in Bronx, New York, then moved to Texas, and then eventually moved to New Mexico. Michelle was a single mom in 2016. Her and her two children were living in the Arroyo Villas apartment complex. She had recently been hired at Smith's grocery store and recently passed a drug test in order to start working at the establishment. In March of 2016, Michelle Martens called CPS to tell them that her then boyfriend had attempted to kiss her daughter. The boyfriend that was accused of 2 cases of childhood SA. In 2012, he was accused of molesting 2 young family members 15 years prior when he was 16 years old. In May of 2013, he abducted a 4-year-old child from an apartment complex in Albuquerque's North Valley. The girl's mother chased him and crashed into his car. He then shoved the 4-year-old out of his car and back into her mother's arms. Nothing ever came of Michelle's 2016 call to CPS. Michelle and her then boyfriend met while working together at Bye Bye Baby. She told police that she broke up with him and kicked him out as soon as she found out that he tried to kiss Victoria. But that story would change several times, and she would eventually admit to police that he sexually assaulted Victoria.
We had hot dogs, hamburgers, the kids played together, went to the pool. We spent the entire day till nightfall with Michelle.
July 4th, John and Pat Martens and their friend Laura Bob say life couldn't have been more normal. Just 6 weeks later, their granddaughter, Victoria Martens, would be murdered. The horrific details shocked the nation.
Trying to make sense out of the whole thing.
The Martens say all the way up to the hours before her death, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Victoria had just celebrated her 10th birthday at school.
I spoke to her Tuesday afternoon. I says, how was your party?
5 o'clock we talked to
She
her.
says, oh, it was good. Did they sing happy birthday to you at school? Yes. I said, how were the cupcakes? She says, oh, they were good.
As they describe her, a single, hardworking mom who had never been arrested and loved her kids more than anything.
Suspect any drug use by Michelle at all?
None.
Our daughter never did drugs, she never drank.
The Martens say Michelle had just passed a drug test 3 months earlier to land a job at Smith's.
Went to the job every day.
They say Michelle was responsible and active in Victoria and her 8-year-old brother's lives.
Children's Youth and Family Division had been called 5 times to the Martens household prior to Victoria's murder. It's believed that the majority of these calls were made by Michelle. The 5 calls resulted in no action taken. CYFD claimed that after conducting an internal audit, they feel the agency followed protocol and that they did a thorough job of investigating the 5 reports. If this was the case, then how did no one see the signs that Victoria was in danger? How is there no evidence of abuse? This speaks to a larger problem with child protection in New Mexico. Michelle would meet her new boyfriend, Fabian Gonzalez, in July of 2016 on the dating app Plenty of Fish. And by August of 2016, Fabian was living with Michelle and her 2 children. Really, Michelle? Are you kidding me? This is so completely unacceptable, but sadly, not surprisingly, since in my opinion, you never gave a crap about these children's well-being. Following the trend of men that Michelle likes to date and being around her children, Fabian is one of New Mexico's repeat offenders.
He followed the vicious cycle of being arrested, being released, and then reoffending. Fabian Gonzalez was charged with 2 cases of assault against women and received probation. In 2012, a probation officer warned the courts that Fabian posed a threat to the community and was at a high risk for reoffending. Michelle has now moved this man into her home with her children, who has had child abuse charges and DV charges pressed against him. It's also been reported that Fabian asked Michelle to keep their relationship secret from her family. Still don't see any red flags, huh, Michelle? After moving in, Fabian began bringing drug dealers over to the apartment. This is Jessica Kelly. She and Fabian are cousins. At the time of meeting and moving in with Michelle, Jessica was in prison. When she was released from prison on August 15, 2016, Fabian picked her up and brought her back to Michelle's apartment. Like her cousin, Jessica Kelly has a very impressive rap sheet. She was accused of helping an inmate sexually assault a fellow inmate. When the victim hid under the bed, Jessica grabbed her and held her so she could be assaulted. She also kept a lookout for guards. She was eventually charged with conspiracy to commit criminal sexual penetration in the 2nd degree, which is a Class 3 felony. She was not registered as a sex offender at the time because conspiracy charges don't require registration as a sex offender. So now there are 2 repeat offenders in Michelle's home with her kids. And unfortunately, these circumstances are all culminating in a terrifying and gruesome event that would result in the loss of Victoria's life. This sweet, innocent 10-year-old child. It's also believed that Gonzalez had more than one girlfriend at the time, and once his cousin was released, they went to one of the girlfriend's homes and took drugs together. On August 18th, Gonzalez invited his cousin to move into Marten's apartment with them and charged her $50 for rent. There are also reports that the family of Kelly and Gonzalez had a barbecue to celebrate Jessica's release from jail on August 21st. They had a barbecue to celebrate her release from jail. At this barbecue, Fabian got into an altercation with a woman at the party who claimed he had stolen from her, and she demanded he leave. He refused, and a physical fight broke out. Gonzalez was punched and received a black eye from the event. He continued to fight with the woman by text and even threatened her. Search history would show that he was looking for guns online on the night of August 21st. August 23rd, 2016. Victoria's 10th birthday. She gets on the bus to go to school. 11:40 a.m., Gonzalez and Michelle go to get drugs. Their drug dealer warns them that Kelly shouldn't be in the apartment because she's acting weird, and he says that Kelly gave him a debit card to use and told him that the devil gave her the PIN number. Gonzalez and Michelle return to the apartment and then leave again around 2:30 p.m. to drink and get drugs. 2:33 p.m., Michelle texted a woman telling her to knock on the apartment door, pretending to be her aunt to make sure everything is okay. 2:36 p.m., Michelle texts her mom and asks her to pick Victoria up from the bus stop after school. 2:37 p.m., Michelle ignores a call from her mom. Gonzalez convinces Michelle that Kelly should pick up Victoria from the bus stop. Although skeptical, Gonzalez tells her to trust Kelly and that it's safe to leave Victoria with her. 2:39 p.m., Michelle texts her mom, "Never mind, I got it." Her mom then responds and told her she's been trying to call. Around 3 o'clock p.m., Gonzalez and Michelle stay at a man's residence until 4:40 p.m. and make a trip to the liquor store during this time. 3:37 p.m., Michelle texts Kelly reminding her to get Victoria from the bus stop. At 4:08 p.m., Michelle texted Kelly again asking whether she picked up Victoria, but Kelly didn't respond. 4:35 p.m., a neighbor texts Michelle that Victoria is trying to reach her. 4:45 p.m., Victoria goes home and neighbors tell Michelle that it appeared someone was in the apartment. 5:05 p.m., Fabian and Michelle return to the apartment. Kelly gives Victoria around $45 to $80. It's not exactly known how much. Gonzalez takes Victoria in the bathroom, closes the door, and talks to her about the money. 6:08 p.m., Fabian takes Victoria to the gas station and buys her a soda without Michelle's permission. 6:09 p.m., Kelly's sister, who was in prison at the time, calls her. Kelly tells her sister that she's tweaking and hallucinating.
Tonight, Target 7's Nancy Laughlin focuses on Jessica Kelly and what her sister is urging her to do.
You have seen Jessica Kelly's sister in court, smiling and blowing kisses to our camera. The only time the two can talk now is on the phone, in conversations that are recorded because Jessica is in jail, accused in the brutal murder of 10-year-old Victoria Martens.
Everybody asked me, they're like, that's your sister, what do you think? I said, anybody's capable of anything, but no.
The two never mention Victoria's name, but Jessica's sister urges her to own up to her role in the crime if she had one.
You know what Dad always used to say, like, you did the crime, you do the time, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm trying to say right now is, like, if you had any, like, I don't even want to say it over the phone, but if you had anything to do with it, man up, you know? Yeah, I know that.
Her sister tells Jessica the accusations are taking a toll on her.
I'm doing bad, sister. I'm doing real bad. I think I lost my mind.
Jessica warns her sister to stay off drugs.
My whole world's falling apart, you know? I'm dead. I'm in such depression. I'm in everything. Like right now, I'm even down and gone.
Implying drugs are the reason why she's now accused in one of the most brutal killings in New Mexico history.
Just end up like me, they're going to end up doing something stupid, and they're going to end up in here. And they're going to separate us because they're sisters.
Just days before Victoria's murder, Jessica had been released from prison.
I was out for 7 days, dude. Okay? I was with my cousin for 4 days. I talked to you literally hours before I got arrested. But you're on a mindset of selfishness. You're out for your own, you know? Chasing that dope and money. I know. That's what I do.
Fabian and Michelle leave Victoria at the apartment while they go to get marijuana from his brother. Fabian and Michelle return to the apartment around 7:01 p.m. Kelly and Victoria are outside at this time. Kelly yells at Fabian and Michelle because they brought the wrong cigarettes for her. Fabian and Michelle leave again at 7:05 p.m. Kelly and Victoria have a conversation with two neighbors. Kelly spoke over Victoria and told neighbors she gave her $45. Kelly then physically pulled Victoria back into the apartment. 7:32 p.m. Fabian's brother calls him, so he and Michelle go to his residence and then to another man's residence. Fabian told Kelly he's picking up an ounce of meth. Fabian and Michelle return to the apartment. Kelly tells them she's scared someone's going to roll up on the apartment while Fabian is gone. She sees a car with two people repeatedly driving past the apartment. While Michelle and Fabian were out of the home, an unknown man entered the apartment and said he was looking for Favo, which is Gonzalez's street name. The man went into Victoria's room and killed her. He told Kelly that Gonzalez effed up and knew he had done so. He instructed Kelly that she and Gonzalez needed to clean up the mess or she and her kids would be next.
I've committed myself not only to holding Jessica Kelly accountable, but also Fabian Gonzalez and also this unknown individual. And we pursued this initial plea agreement in the hopes of doing that. And it's my hope that we're still able to do that. I don't know what's going to unfold in the trial. I can tell you that without her testimony, we will be severely limited in the types of evidence and the types of testimony that we can present. And we think that is going to impact the outcome, certainly in Fabian Gonzalez's case and potentially in the prosecution or hopeful prosecution of the unknown man.
But why do you believe that the unknown man was the one who killed Victoria by himself? Why don't you believe that Jessica was more involved in it?
Again, I'm not going to comment in a lot of detail on things that are going to be presented at trial. I can tell you that the presence of male DNA on her body in specific locations, including around her neck, suggests that whoever this unknown assailant was bears primary responsibility for that death. Because it's not just the presence of Y DNA on her back, under the fingernails of both hands, but also around her neck. And as you know from reviewing the OMI report, the cause of death was strangulation. And so that supports this conclusion that this unknown man was primarily responsible for the killing.
So more DNA has been released since last time we talked about this in June?
No, this has to do with where the DNA was, where the Y DNA was recovered from the body. There is male DNA all over Victoria Marten's body, including in places that are indicative of the person who committed the murder.
And this unidentified male is still charged with rape, is that correct?
The unidentified individual has been charged with criminal sexual penetration and murder, and we will work towards identifying them. But right now, the primary focus is trying to find this individual, which again is why we sought the cooperation of Jessica Kelly, and we are concerned that without her cooperation, we may not be able to do that.
8:48 p.m. Fabian and Michelle returned to the apartment. They both appeared high, paranoid, and tweaked out when they returned. They were sitting in Michelle's car in the parking lot, singing to loud music. During this time, Jessica Kelly carried Victoria's lifeless body, which she wrapped in a blanket, down the steps outside the apartment. She returned upstairs with Victoria's body, and Fabian and Michelle followed a short time after. Kelly and Gonzalez had a private conversation where Kelly told Gonzalez that Victoria was dead. They decided to conceal the homicide, clean up the crime scene, and bury Victoria's body. Gonzalez distracted Martens by having her cook dinner and then put her to bed.
We are learning more about what happened the early morning hours of August 24th when Victoria was killed.
And the guy's at our door saying he got beat up pretty bad.
Police released 911 calls from neighbors, including the woman who called 911 when Martens and Gonzalez came to her door asking for help. You can hear Gonzalez and Martens in the background of that call.
Oh my God.
What's happening?
There was a lady that's pretty beat up.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Is it a male or a female that he's fighting with?
There's two. No, there's a... Who are you fighting? Oh, there's a girl in the house. I don't know, but this girl's bleeding really bad.
The caller says a little girl is still inside the apartment with Jessica Kelly.
There's a little girl inside the house.
How old?
How old is your daughter? 10. Oh, yeah, she's 10.
Is she awake?
I don't know. She doesn't know. If the other individuals inside her house.
Moments later, police arrive. They find Martens, Gonzalez, then Kelly. Police also discover Victoria in a bathtub on fire, dismembered.
I just want to give you a warning, guys, right now that these details coming up are they're going to be extremely disturbing, just so you're aware of that. So Fabian and Kelly dismember Victoria's arms with a knife. Gonzalez removes organs from her body and puts them in a trash bag. Gonzalez and Kelly place Victoria's remains in trash bags, clean up the blood and other evidence in the apartment. Kelly and Gonzalez carry Victoria's body into the bathroom and place it in the bathtub. Investigators found a knife with blood in the kitchen with partial DNA that matched Victoria's. They also found organs in a trash bag inside a laundry bag in the living room. Smoke detectors were removed and Victoria's body was set on fire after being wrapped in plastic and a sheet. Her body was then placed in the hall bathroom. Around 1 a.m. on August 24th, Gonzalez and Kelly had a conversation on the balcony. Kelly said they should go inside, but Gonzalez said no. Around 4:15 a.m., a neighbor heard a man yelling, saying, "Be quiet, you'll wake up the neighbors." After the homicide, Michelle told Gonzalez she killed my daughter, but Gonzalez disputed the death. Gonzalez told first responders that Kelly was just a friend, even though they're cousins. Kelly closed the door on officers and jumped off the second-story balcony, which resulted in a fractured ankle and other injuries. The Office of the Medical Examiner determined the cause of death to be manual strangulation. Compression of Victoria's neck impaired blood flow to the brain, resulting in loss of consciousness and death. Multiple body parts were removed, and there was penetrating trauma to the rectum. No intoxicating substances, including meth or alcohol, were found in Victoria's system.
KOAT medical expert Dr. Barry Ramo reviewed Victoria Marten's just-released autopsy.
The whole thing is beyond anyone's conception that this could happen, especially to a little 10-year-old child.
The autopsy shows the manner of death, homicide.
This is horrible, but it appears that she died from strangulation.
According to the medical examiner's report, sometime before she was killed, the 10-year-old suffered abuse and contracted a sexually transmitted disease.
There was evidence of sexual abuse, both in terms of rectal trauma as well as the fact that she had an infection that she'd had for some time and evidence of the HPV infection.
And according to her autopsy, after she was strangled and killed, Victoria was then stabbed and dismembered. The medical examiner wrote some of her vital organs were found in a plastic bag. The report also says her lifeless body was found wrapped in plastic bags and a cloth that had been set on fire.
When Michelle Martens was initially interviewed, she claimed that she met men online and allowed them to sexually abuse Victoria. She claimed she did this because she enjoyed watching it. She said she used the website Plenty of Fish to find these men and invited a number of them over to her home. She also claimed that the trio had injected methamphetamine into Victoria to get her to calm down. She says she believed that the drugs were what killed Victoria. She also claimed that she watched as Jessica held Victoria down while Gonzalez sexually assaulted her. She said Jessica then stabbed Victoria, and that is when she dismembered and set her on fire. Police confiscated a camcorder, iPod, as well as several mini discs from Martin's apartment. It's important to note that Victoria's little brother was with his father when all this happened, so luckily he was spared from all of this.
He misses his sister a lot. He prays for her every day, and he always asks in church for prayers for Victoria.
In August 2016, Matthew's sister Victoria was murdered and mutilated at their West Side apartment. The night of the crime, Matthew wasn't there. He was with his dad, a man who once dated Victoria's mother, Michelle, for 7 years. The relationship ended a year before Victoria's murder. Matthew and his father now live in another state. At the request of the family, we are not saying where.
He's doing okay. They both have been through a lot, and the emotional strain has been hard on them, but we're trying to move on.
The 3 suspects were initially charged with kidnapping, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with evidence, conspiracy, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And Jessica and Fabian were charged with criminal sexual penetration of a minor. Michelle changed her story several times during this interrogation. She claimed she watched as Jessica and Fabian assaulted Victoria and did nothing to stop them. The autopsy shows that there was no meth in Victoria's system. Martens also claimed that Fabian was abusing Victoria the entire month he was living with them. Eventually, it became clear that some of the initial details of the case were fabricated by Michelle. The DA announced at a press briefing that despite Martens and Gonzalez confessions, cell phone data showed that neither Martens nor Gonzalez were present in the apartment when Victoria was killed. Jessica informed police as part of her plea deal that there was an unknown man who entered the apartment and murdered Victoria. And this is actually the story that police are going with and that police believe actually happened. So why Michelle made up this crazy story, I have no idea. It's so mind-boggling to me why she would say this crazy story.
Fabian Gonzalez and Michelle Martens are no longer charged with the murder of 10-year-old Victoria Martens.
We were forced to consider the possibility that Michelle Martens had falsely incriminated herself and Fabian Gonzalez in this heinous act.
Target 7 looked through the transcripts of the interview Martens had with police after the girl's death, and we found some glaring contradictions.
The detective asks her, "How did Victoria die? Do you know?" Michelle responds by saying she tasted the meth that was on the table. Later in that same interview, an investigator asks again, "How did they kill her, Michelle? How did they kill Victoria?" This time, Michelle says by stabbing her. They ask her once more later, "How did they kill your daughter?" And she says by raping her. The investigators didn't understand that answer, and she says they covered her mouth. Even the police asking the questions admit they don't understand why Martens is admitting to horrible crimes. They told her, "I guess sometimes I don't understand why you'll tell the truth on these big, huge things, but on little things you try to lie, and it makes no sense to me." Prosecutors hired a forensic psychiatrist named Dr. Michael Wellner, who said a combination of trauma, drug abuse, and suggestive questioning by police made Michelle Martens give them false statements.
She made admissions she felt were separating herself from the murder and the dismemberment, but in fact she was placing herself there.
Phone calls from the Bernalillo County Jail. He talks to his mother a lot.
Let's not talk about that. Promise me that I'm going to go home with you guys, okay?
In nearly every call, she reminds him, watch what you're saying, because these calls are recorded.
Nothing. Nothing? Okay.
Nothing, okay?
No more. Just shut up.
In some conversations, he's sobbing.
I want to prove to you and everybody that I didn't do nothing. It was in the police said about me, okay?
One thing they're both angry about, the fact that the little girl's grandparents are suing the city, claiming APD didn't do enough to prevent Victoria's rape and murder. Gonzalez and his cousin, Jessica Kelly, are suspects, and so is Victoria's own mother, Michelle.
It's a sick house. They're trying to make money off of the death of their grandchild, though.
I know. That's the thing that, you know what I mean? Stupid.
In the lawsuit, Victoria's grandparents say the police didn't investigate a tip about a man trying to kiss Victoria months before her murder.
What I care about is poor Victoria. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, for what they did to her. Called for, and I even told him too for what that mother did to her for even before that.
Victoria's grandparents want money from the city.
No amount of money is worth your daughter or your son or your family member.
Over and over, Gonzalez seems convinced he won't be convicted in one of New Mexico's most brutal crimes.
That's when I'm going to get out, and I bet you, and I know in my heart I'm getting out.
He even makes plans for when he gets out, telling a girlfriend he's been working out.
You should see how big I got. I've never been this ill.
And he's also making plans to do something in honor of Victoria.
What is the first thing we're going to do?
Do that special thing for Victoria.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the first thing we're going to do.
You are already paying for her to stay in prison. Now she's devising a plan to get even more of your money by suing. Only Target 7 is closely following every development in the Victoria Martens case.
And tonight we've uncovered new recordings that detail how one of the suspects says she's planning to make bank while she's locked up.
Jessica Kelly, you've seen her before in a wheelchair, limping in court, even falling down from an injury that happened the night 10-year-old Victoria Martens was murdered.
My leg, I don't know what kind of surgery I had or whatever, but it's pretty messed up.
In a jailhouse phone call.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
She talks about cashing in on that injured leg.
I was going to try to fall down the stairs so I could sue him, so I could send the kids some money. Would have hurt, but would have been worth it.
Yeah.
She even says there was an opportunity to take a spill on purpose, but jail guards held onto her too tightly.
They tried to move me upstairs and I couldn't walk downstairs, so they moved me back downstairs. Yeah. So I was going to try to fall. I was like, yep.
The woman accused of not only killing little Victoria, but doing horrific things to her body and then setting her on fire in a bathtub has kids of her own. And it's clear in her conversations with family, Jessica wants to make money so her children have a better life.
I'm going to take some classes and stuff and see if I could go ahead and start writing books, if that's what I have to do just to, you know what I mean? For you guys.
Yeah.
To get money.
Not only does she want money for her kids, she wants money for herself.
I sent you $45, Jessica.
Did you? Thank you, Mom.
Money to buy stuff in jail.
If I want all my hygiene and I want coffee, then I don't buy food.
She budgets to buy what she wants.
Mom, I just want to go home already.
I know, babe. I know.
When I talk to you guys, it makes me feel better.
She makes saving money to make jail phone calls a priority. Phone calls Target 7 is listening to closely. For Target 7, I'm Justin Matthews.
This is a free call from
Crystal.
You have seen and heard a lot about Jessica Kelly's sister, Crystal. She was the one kicked out of court when she caused a ruckus during a court hearing for Jessica.
I'm gonna get you, Michelle.
You need to get out.
Court records also show, like her sister, Crystal Kelly has spent a lot of time behind bars. In the weeks following Victoria Marten's murder, Crystal Kelly was sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center for an alleged crime unrelated to Victoria's murder.
It has nothing to do with this.
Crystal tells her mother while behind bars at MDC, jail staffers are making sure the two sisters are kept apart.
We don't know if you're going to try hurting your sister. I said, you guys are pathetic. I said, I need to talk to my sister. I want to tell her bye.
Crystal and her mother frequently talk about Jessica's case, a woman charged with killing and dismembering a 10-year-old little girl.
Hey, it's going to come out. Even like you said, there's only one set of prints on the murder weapon, and it ain't my sister's. So.
I know, because I know she didn't do this, but
hearsay. They have nothing but hearsay.
I know. And we know her.
In other calls with other people, Crystal talks about her sister a lot.
She wouldn't hurt a kid. Like, I know my sister, she wouldn't hurt a kid. I could see her maybe trying to get rid of the body or something after it was done, but I don't know.
In another call, Crystal's mother says she wants to go to Jessica's court hearings, but
Nobody that wants to go with me, and I'm by myself if I go.
the mother tells Crystal she believes one day both her daughters will no longer be behind bars.
You know, my birthday falls on Thanksgiving. Yeah. I'm supposed to be bringing my children home with me. And when you girls come home, we're all going to go in together, me, you, and Jessica. We're going to get us a house, and we're just going to get us a big house.
In another phone call, though, Crystal tells a guy she's talking to her mom's not being realistic.
We're going to get a big house, and we're going to live together, me, you, and Jessica. I'm like, Jessica's not going to be out anytime soon, and where am I going to get money for a big house?
Prosecutors believe Jessica Kelly is a key figure in this case. They wanted to strike a plea deal with her to get more answers about other suspects in Victoria's death, but a judge wouldn't sign off on it. Now Kelly is set to go to trial in January. For Target 7, I'm Nancy Laff.
After the revelations came out that Michelle's confession was false and she was not at the apartment at the time of the murder, the charges against her were dropped. On June 29, 2018, Michelle accepted a plea bargain, pleading guilty to one count of reckless child abuse resulting in death, and faces 12 to 15 years in prison. On January 4, 2019, rape charges against Jessica Kelly were dropped. On January 7, 2019, Jessica Kelly accepted a plea deal, pleading no contest to 6 charges, including child abuse resulting in death, great bodily harm, aggravated assault, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy to commit tampering with evidence. She could serve up to 50 years in prison as a result of her plea. As part of her plea deal, Jessica Kelly has agreed to testify against Gonzalez and to testify in State v. John Doe case. It keeps saying that Jessica and Michelle were supposed to be sentenced last year, and I can't find anywhere where their sentences have taken place. So I'm thinking that they're still awaiting their sentences. If you guys have heard that they've been sentenced and what they got, leave it in the comments. But I have looked high and low, and everything says that they were supposed to be sentenced in July of 2021, but nothing says what their actual sentencing was. So that's where I'm at with that.
Finally been set for the 2 women charged in Victoria Marten's murder. Victoria was killed, dismembered, and burned in a Westside Albuquerque apartment in 2016. Court documents show Victoria's mother, Michelle Martens, who pled guilty to child abuse resulting in death and tampering with evidence, will be sentenced July 9th. She faces 12 to 15 years in prison. Jessica Kelly, who pleaded no contest to similar charges, is set to be sentenced June 21st. She faces 50 years in prison. Kelly's cousin, Fabian Gonzalez, is still awaiting trial for his alleged role. He's accused of dismembering the body. As part of their plea agreements, Martens and Kelly are required to testify against Gonzalez. Their sentencing had been put on hold until Gonzalez's trial to ensure they complied with that plea deal. The DA's office tells us they will still testify against Gonzalez in his trial, but they no longer have to wait for that to happen before they can be sentenced.
In 2019, Judge Brown ruled that Gonzalez could be released from prison while waiting for his trial to begin, citing the fact that Gonzalez was no longer facing the heinous charges he once was, and saying that the state had not convincingly shown that Gonzalez posed a danger to the community, which is crazy to me. Prosecutors immediately filed an appeal to the judge's decision, which looks to have been unsuccessful. Gonzalez's trial was due to start at the beginning of January, but has been delayed until the summer due to the pandemic. In December of 2021, Judge Cindy Leos decided that when the trial begins, jurors will be allowed to see the photos of Victoria's remains, which were taken by the Office of the Medical Investigator. Prosecutors have about 60 of these photos. The photos are of contents of a bag containing Victoria's dismembered arms, her heart, and other organs, in addition to deep cuts, burns, and other injuries on her body. Deputy D.A. Greer Rose said the photos are highly relevant because the tampering charges against Gonzalez allege that he dismembered Victoria's arms and removed her organs. Gonzalez's attorney Stephen Aarons argued that showing the photos to Gonzalez's trial would prejudice the jury against him, as the photos would upset any normal human being. Judge Leos says, quote, This is going to be tough for the jury to see. I recognize that it's going to be difficult for the jury, but it is relevant. The state will still have to prove that tampering took place." End quote. On October 29th, 2016, a memorial service was held at Cooper Point Church. More than 600 people attended the service in support of Victoria and her loved ones. Many people wore purple, Victoria's favorite color. The former governor of New Mexico, Susana Martinez, and APD Chief Gordon Eden spoke, saying the state must learn from what happened to her, saying, quote, "Let us strengthen our resolve to look out for each other, to take care of each other, watch out for those who cannot take care of themselves," end quote. Each year on Victoria's birthday, also heartbreakingly the day that she died, a memorial has taken place. In 2016, it was held on August 29th. The crowd released dozens of balloons and blew bubbles into the sky. After the sun went down, attendees sang "Happy Birthday." Okay, guys, if you're still here, thank you so much. Veronica and Nanika, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. This was just such a heartbreaking story, but I'm so happy that you told me about it, and I'm so happy that I was able to share this poor little baby's story. Please let me know what you thought of this, guys. It's just heartbreaking, this poor baby. So yeah, leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It really helps me out. And until next time, thank you guys so much.